Hi, I'm Andy LeGrand, and you're listening to the October 2020 episode of Knox Guitar Box. Knox Guitar Box is a production of Knoxville Classical Guitar, a 501c3 nonprofit organization that supports local and regional guitarists and students through performance, production, education, service, and community. For more information or to offer support for Knoxville Classical Guitar, visit knoxvilleclassicalguitar.com. Tonight I have the pleasure of presenting a conversation I had with guitarist, arranger, and instructor Jerry Willard. We met via Zoom.
Hi there. Is that your office, or your home, or your studio?
This is my home.
Your home?
This is my home, yeah.
Very nice. I see you're a chess player.
My son and I play chess.
Really?
He's 9 and is trying to beat Dad. So.
Oh, that's good for him. Yeah. When my son was young, I used to arm wrestle him,
Right,
and I'll never forget the day that he honestly beat me. And we both looked at each other completely surprised. Like, that's not supposed to happen.
That's not supposed to happen. Like, hey, we probably don't need to do this anymore, right?
Exactly, yeah.
First of all, I just want to thank you for doing this. I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. I don't mind at all. It's rather fun. Now that I'm retired, and plus with COVID, there's nothing to do, so I might as well.
Yeah, right. Well, I'm glad you did it. I've interviewed Goran Ivanovic
yes.
a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
So.
I was with Goran last April in Patras in Greece.
Oh, really?
We served on a competition panel together.
Oh, great.
So I got to hear him play and he's a wonderful guy and a great player.
Yeah, I like him a lot. Really down to earth.
Really down to earth. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's great.
I'm finding that folks have been playing guitar at a very young age, and there's a familial influence, or there's a neighbor who influenced, not necessarily like just going and taking guitar lessons. And I think that's a very natural, organic way of things to happen.
Yes.
And I read that your father was a musician. Yeah,
he was an amateur jazz musician. He was sort of, basically he was trying to make a living during the 1930s when the Depression was going. So he would play at speakeasies and some square dances, but he'd given up playing for a long time. So I remember seeing his guitar when I was a child, and I would pick it up and play it, strum the open strings. Mm-hmm. And I tried other instruments. I tried trumpet, piano. And I'll never forget with piano, I was taking lessons from this Mrs. Biddle, and she, in Ohio. And she looked like she was 100 years old. And, of course, I was 6, so she was probably about 40, Right. So somehow the piano seemed really big. And so when the guitar came around, people thought I wouldn't connect with it. And I tell you, my father gave me the guitar. I said, here's the McNeil modern guitar method. And you learn that, and then I'll get you some lessons if you can if you can do it. Within 6 months, I knew in my heart that I would do this for the rest of my life. And wow. I did. Well, I was very lucky. I got into the field when there weren't many people in it, and that helps a lot.
Yeah. So what I did not read about is your path with guitar in general. I know you went to Washington, D.C. and studied with 2 great classical guitarists. And, but did you stay classical? Or did you, when we play other things, we're called strollers, right? But
I did. Yeah. I did basically everything.
Okay.
Starting up with, I was brought up in northwestern Ohio, a lot of country music, and so one of my first gigs was backing some people up on the radio, playing chords. At that moment in my life, I was probably 18 years old, and I thought I was at the apex of my career. I was playing on the radio, and nothing could be better, know. And then I tried some different jobs. I was in college for a while. I didn't stay because there was no guitar program. And so eventually I dropped out. I got a gig playing in a hotel. And then I moved to Ann Arbor and Cleveland. I bounced back and forth. Cleveland was great because I worked for a man there named Richard Lurie. And Richard Lurie would book a lot of concerts. Yeah. And so I got to meet a lot of people. I got to meet John Williams. I got to meet Julian Bream, Ida Presti. And so it was a wonderful period. And I was able also to get an occasional lesson. So I got a lesson from John Williams. I want a lesson from Bream, but I got a big no.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Okay. Well, you know what? I want to talk to you about Julian Bream in a little bit because we lost him, last month. And I haven't had that conversation with someone who, where that playing is. So I do want to talk with you about that. At some point. He
was the first guitarist that really turned me on. Segovia was wonderful, of course, and you held him in awe. But Green was like a rock star.
Right.
When I first heard him play, I was amazed. And the way he played, the expression that he used. Yeah. So it was much more a person of my generation. So, when he died this last year, I'm still working on that. At first, it felt a lot like when my parents died. I'm of that age where your parents are no longer alive. And I remember when my mother died, I thought, how could you do this to me? And in a way, I felt the same way with Green. There was a personal part of it.
Right.
And I'm still working that out. I found myself saving a lot of videos, if I can find, of him and storing them just so I have them. And he was a great man and really a great artist. Yeah. And when you watch him play, he's almost an example of what not to do. It's very odd. He's so tense as a player. And yet the music that came out, it's incredible. Yeah. And it reminds me a lot of Beethoven. Beethoven succeeded despite his deafness. Yeah. And Bream, in a way, was the same way. He succeeded more than one could despite whatever handicaps that he had in terms of his playing.
Right. Yeah. What's been interesting about the conversation since he's died is that everyone is like, oh, here's my favorite.
Oh, totally.
And I had no idea that so many people had the same thoughts that I did. Bream was one of my favorites. I mean, he was,
absolutely.
His recording of the Lute Suites is probably my favorite recording.
Yes, mine too.
On the classical. And I thought just one of the things that I enjoyed about what he did was just the diversity and the timbre of how he was playing it and things like that, moving up and down the strings.
Exactly, yeah. He was a great artist. He's the guy, like we say, what guitar player would you take to a desert island? There would be no question. It would be Julian Green. It would be the first answer to my mind without even thinking about it,
Yep.
So
I'm sorry that you didn't get to take a lesson with him, though, Jerry.
No, it would have been nice. I think, he was touring a lot, and I don't think he really liked teaching. And so I think he was totally involved in his career. This would have been, when I was talking to him, it would have been probably 1967, 68, maybe. Okay. So he was much younger, and so was I.
Yeah. I teach a guitar class, and I've just asked them to watch the documentary that's most recently out, My Life in Music, I believe it's what it's called.
That documentary particularly is really, really good. I found that very moving.
Yeah,
actually, it was nice that came out towards the end of his life because it really summed up what he was all about.
Yeah, Jerry, can you tell me a little bit about your experience in school?
I sort of bounced around. I went to the University of Michigan for a while. Okay. I went to Cleveland. I went to Cleveland Institute of Music. Okay. There was no guitar program, so I just went off and I just did it without having the university. Okay. But in those days, you could because the field was essentially empty. There weren't many people in it. People from my generation realized what a dearth of information there was. There was no internet. There was no way to get music. Right. So music was valuable. Right. And I remember I played for Segovia in Cleveland, and I played the Ponce Prelude after Weiss. Bum, 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 bim, bum, bum. So I took it off the record by ear. So I said, Maestro, could you please correct any errors? Which he did. So that time was very, very different. And so I sort of bounced around, and I taught in Cleveland for a long time, and then in 1972 I moved to New York. And so that started that facet of my career. Okay. Gotcha. And I started working for a wonderful organization called the Guitar Workshop in Long Island from 1972 to about 1978.
No, okay.
Yeah, the wonderful. There was no organization like it.
Well, what made them different? What did they do?
It really represented the 1960s and 1970s, which was a renaissance of music and a renaissance of styles. So that school really represented classical music, folk music, people that played traditional banjo music. Pete Seeger would come. And at that time, we were all awash in one big bath of music. There was no styles. And that was really cool. And I learned so much. I remember playing some concerts with a banjo player with a lute. And a lot of that music translates very easily because the banjo comes from that sort of Scottish English tradition, which the lute does also. Right. And a lot of their tunes go back a long ways. Yeah. So it made a lot of sense. So that was a wonderful thing. The fellow that ran the organization, Kent Seiden, was such a wonderful man. And he was a typical personification of the 1960s, where he ran the whole organization out of his wallet, and it was it was great fun. So I was lucky to come to New York and have that experience. And then later on, things began to change, and I got a position at Stony Brook University in 1978, and I was on their faculty until just 2 years ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
44 years.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
That's a long time.
It is. It is. And you were not just teaching there too. You were doing other things, right?
I was performing, publishing, doing all, and gigging around New York also.
Okay.
I was lucky. I was really blessed in my life to be able to make a living at what I love doing. So people basically have really left me alone. I look back and I'm really grateful for that.
Yes.
Because a lot of people have not had that. And so I've actually put 2 kids through college playing the guitar and the lute.
Yeah.
So, and I know you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I do. I do know what you're talking about. Yeah. 2 questions that came out of that, just to what you just said. One is, you mentioned arranging. I compose, I arrange music. The reason I arrange music is somebody says, hey, would you like to play for our wedding? We'd like to have these songs. Most of the time, at this point in time, they're 80s or 90s love songs,
Yes.
and I arrange them for guitar. You have arranged so many pieces. I mean, you've got the complete lute works of Bach, the Library of Guitar Classics. Both volumes have over 100 pieces in it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there are plenty. And then the complete works of Jasper Sands. You've done some Gershwin. You've done the Beatles. When I walked into my college, and I met my instructor, Patrick Kerber, he said to me, here's what you're going to need. You're going to need to enroll in theory. You're going to need to enroll in, your guitar lessons and guitar ensemble. Everything else will work out, except you need the Library of Guitar Classics, Volume 1.
All right.
And yeah, right. And he was right. He was right. There was enough in that to carry me through my second year of college. I was 25, 26 years old when that happened. That was many years ago. That was you in my home, you at my school.
How nice.
And I really appreciate that. But since then, I teach out of that book, both volumes, and I teach your Jasper Sands. I'm probably saying that wrong. Jasper Sands.
Jasper Sands, that's right.
Yeah,
yes.
okay, yeah.
That's it, yeah.
Your Easy Gig guitar book, the one that's book of classical Easy Gig book, that is a go-to for my lessons.
Yeah, good.
And when I don't have the time to work up stuff for a gig, I can actually pull that book out and read it. And
you gotta have it. That's right.
It's good. So that is huge. There is a lot of stuff that you've done. How in the world did you get into just arranging music? What drove you to do that?
A lot of it is just being a guitarist. I mean, so much of the repertoire, it's a wonderful, huge repertoire. But we want to play Albanas also, and Albanas, certain instruments, the Spanish pieces work really well. So it almost forces you to learn to arrange. I think what got me into it too was that I didn't necessarily like what I saw, a lot of the arrangements that I saw. I thought they were, first of all, they were over-fingered. There was so much information on the page, you couldn't even get to the notes. And so a lot of it, what I did was actually de-ornament it, get rid of all that stuff, so I could get down to the bare bones, and then I would re-finger that. Now, more complicated stuff, things like the Poetic Valses by Granados, that's much more difficult because that's a piano piece. I'm just using that as an example to go to. Most of the music that was out, I didn't like the way that it was done. So in order to do it, I had to get the music. And I had a certain formula that I would do. I'm a good sight reader, so I would put the music up. If it was the same key, I could read it or transpose it slowly and begin to work it out. Once the computers came, it made that process enormously simpler.
Right.
So I do the long division version, which is if I'm going to do, say, a piece like the Granados pieces, I will input the whole piece, piano music and all, into the computer. And that way I can transpose it by pushing a button, and I start to take notes out till I get what I want. That was a breakthrough.
Yeah.
Because it would take you years to work that out on the stage. You say, this really isn't working. And so technology has helped enormously.
Right. If you don't mind, may I ask you, what's your favorite notation software? Because I know there's a huge debate on what's best.
Oh, we have the platform. Sibelius is what I use. I use an old Sibelius. I don't want to knock any company, but if I upgrade my Mac to the next level, I have to then subscribe to Sibelius. Right. So I'm at Sibelius 6. If I were writing for orchestra or writing operas, I'd definitely go up to the big volume. But the part I use of that software is so small, it's not worth going up for it. And I hate the idea of renting software.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah,
I go to Sibelius. That's my go-to. I own them all because I do some editing of other folks' works.
You got to do what you got to do, right?
Yeah, but Sibelius is definitely my go-to. simply because of fingerings. The fingerings are much easier.
Yes, much easier to input it, yes.
Yeah, good. I mean, I can't imagine arranging what you've arranged. We have a local guitarist here who composes and arranges, named Lawrence Long, Larry Long, we know him by.
Yeah.
And he spends his time in that computer, and, just sitting there doing that is just something that's...
Well, once the computers came in, it made it much simpler. But like the Bach book, for instance, I did that book in 1980, the lute suites, and that was all by hand. So I had a table set up. I remember I had a table set up watching the World Series, and I was writing this stuff down. I had an automatic, like an electric pencil eraser, and off I went. So when I turned that into the publisher, I then had to take this pile of manuscripts and go down to the local place and photostat. You don't want to lose it, right?
Right.
And then I give that to the publisher, and then they work on it and send it back. The whole thing is a laborious process.
Right.
Wow. And now that whole process takes, because you do it by email, everything is duplicated. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It makes it much simpler.
That's great. Yeah. Well, you mentioned the lute suite, so I do want to talk to you about that.
Yes.
I have a couple of favorites, E minor and C sharp minor. Both are my favorites. I like those very much.
My favorites also. Those two.
Yeah, there's something about how it captures my thoughts. But
it's wonderful.
But you playing the 996 lute suite in E minor on the lute, the arch lute.
Yes, that's right.
I can tell you this: I don't believe I've ever heard it played on the lute, and I've listened to a lot of music, and it's probably out there more than I know. But I'm used to,
the guitar sounds.
Julian Bream's version or someone else has done it, and it is a completely different experience.
Yes, very different, yes.
I'm sure it was a lot of work to actually get those arranged for guitar, which is what I have.
Well, you have to remember that music would have come to the lutenist in tablature.
Okay, right.
So whatever you call the tuning, so that on the arch lute, that comes out in the key of G minor.
Okay.
Because the arch, just to make it clear, the arch lute, I might get mixed up here, so bear with me.
Okay.
The arch lute tuning is the same as the Renaissance lute tuning, which is still in force, just like the guitar.
You're listening to Johann Sebastian Bach's Lute Suite in E minor, performed by Jerry Willard on the arch lute.
once I got the arch lute and did it, it did sound wonderful to me, except for a strange reason. It seemed to really condone the guitarist playing of it. So it actually helped me say, well, actually, the guitar transcription is really pretty good. It actually works really well, despite the fact you don't have those low basses, which create their own problems. Like, you know, be careful what you pray for. Right. So once you get the basses, what am I going to do with these basses lasting all over the place? Now, in terms of the difficulty, the guitar, of course, playing it on the guitar is a little bit more like being on a sports car. And the lute sometimes feels like an 18-wheeler. Okay. You know, in terms of you've got some low notes coming up. And for me, I'm a dabbler. So I dabble in the lute. And you'd be playing, and you're playing the courant, let's say, and you're thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, here comes a low B flat in 6 measures. Get ready, you know. So you have to think ahead much more than with the guitar. Basically, the arch lute is just an extension of the Renaissance lute. So the Renaissance lute, you had 6 strings, and then as the time went on, more and more strings were added. Robert Johnson actually wound up with a 10 course lute. Okay. Once the arch lute happened, they kept adding more and more strings.
Okay.
So my lute, if you just look at pitches, there are 14 strings.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
No.
and I could just tell you right now, I'm amazed. But,
Yeah, well, I know the first time that I performed that suite, and I did it at Wow Recital Hall in New York, Carnegie Recital Hall. My knees were knocking together when I walked out with that lute.
Yeah. I bet. I mean, I can't imagine at this point. I know there's an element of muscle memory when it comes to playing large pieces.
Yeah.
But after you spend a few years with a guitar and you spend years with a certain piece of music, you know where you're going, and you're like, hey, that's an A right there. I'm going to hit that. I think I'll hit that here. But with the lute, that's a single string conversation that I just had. That's right. That's not 11 strings. That challenge is I can't imagine. So
you really have to practice it. But I'm a doubler, so I play a lot of different instruments: guitar, Baroque, lute. I've even done a little mandolin. Yeah. And so when you're a doubler, you have to really keep it straight in your head what instrument you're on.
Right.
And the problem with the lute is it's close enough to the guitar that you can really get tangled up if you're not careful. It takes a while to get those two circuits going.
Right. Yes, I can imagine the complexity. So, hey, you mentioned the Baroque guitar, so I want to start on something, and I've got this adoration for Plematis by Gaspar Sanz.
It's a beautiful piece.
Yes, and it's almost magical. But I want to tell you why I think that. I hand that piece to my students, and someone handed me that piece of music. And someone researched, hey, this is a good arrangement, I'm going to play this. And Jerry Willard touched that arrangement. We're passing on and reviving something, and there's a magic in that. And I think it's amazing that we keep a piece. So Sanz is 1600s, right? Yeah. So we keep a piece from the 1600s alive yesterday. Even yesterday.
It's amazing. And, that's right.
And you have a hand in that, and I just want to say thank you.
Well, thank you. Yeah. I'm actually delighted that I have had a hand in it. It's really terrific. Yeah. And that particular piece is a really beautiful piece. The Baroque guitar is really almost the opposite of the lute. And when I'm doing things like when I would go out and do concerts and I play a piece on the arch lute, it would feel, because of the hugeness of it. Like
you're listening to Gaspar Sanz, La Habana, performed by Jerry Willard on the Baroque guitar.
highly recommend. In terms of playing with an orchestra, like a Baroque orchestra, it's meant for continual work where you're playing very loud raschiato, so it's a good instrument to gig with.
Okay.
It doesn't have the look of the arch lute, which is, of course, really big, and people want to have that visually.
Right.
But in terms of the actual musical effect, it's really strong and quite wonderful. What makes it so great is it's almost more related in many ways to the banjo because it's a reentrant tuning. Oh. It doesn't go down directly. So the notes are the same as the guitar pitches, E, B, G, D, A, no sixth string. Yeah. You have the top E string, which is single, and then two double Bs, which we call a course. Then the third course is a G, two double Gs, that's the third course. The fourth course is two double Ds, except one D is a high octave on the thumb side.
Okay.
So you can choose on the fourth string whether you want to play a low note, a high note, or two notes together.
Wow, okay.
And then the fifth string is up an octave from what it should be. So the fifth string, which would normally be two ledger lines down, is now going to be the same A that would be on the second space.
Okay.
So when you play that, it cuts right through an orchestra. And so I remember doing the Bach Fifth Brandenburg Concerto, and there's a big harpsichord part, of course, in that. And I'm playing the chords behind that. It was absolutely great. It was like playing in a jazz band, except it's Bach, and there I am chucking out the chords.
Wow.
It was fabulous.
Yeah. How did you get into Baroque guitar and arch lute from guitar?
Well, you have to go back to Julian Bream.
Okay.
When I heard him play the lute, I was absolutely enthralled with that. And I wound up with a lute exactly like he played. In fact, I still have that lute. It's a Jose Rubio, made in New York in probably 1960. And but from that, it was a natural development to go into arch lute and Baroque guitar. A lot of it, was my love for it, and a lot of it was to open up avenues for me to work with other instruments and to work in ensembles. And things like the lute and the Baroque guitar really fit really well. Not that the modern guitar doesn't, but it's just that in the people that I was working with and the demands that were made on me at that time, I'd have to do that. I also fell in love with the music. The Baroque guitar is an amazing, I hate to go back to that again, but the Baroque guitar is an amazing instrument because the problem you have with the Baroque guitar, there's no real bass. The only bass you have on that is just the fourth string. That's the lowest note because the A is high. So what you have with the Baroque guitar is you have an implied bass line. If something's implied, it can sometimes be more powerful than something that isn't. If I want to draw a cat, I draw every little whisker and every little ear, and it looks awful.
Right.
And a real artist makes two lines, and his cat looks much more beautiful than my cat.
Right.
He's implied it, and so the Baroque guitar does that. It implies the bass line. So the problem with the modern guitar, when you go to that Pavanis, is that suddenly it's not implied anymore.
Right.
Suddenly you have a real bass, and it sounds ponderous and heavy.
I see.
So that's not that it's not bad. I like it. I'm not putting anything down.
Right.
But the Baroque guitar, you get a lightness and a limpid kind of delicate quality, and that's what makes it so charming. Wow. And so what it does with that music, if you decide to get one or your students do, is it opens up a huge, vast amount of music, of both Spanish and Italian music.
Do you have a favorite project that you've worked on over the years?
Well, I would have to say, of course, the Bach book, because I love Bach. If someone says, who's your favorite composer to take to a desert island, Bach would be number one. So doing the Bach book was probably the most important for me. And amazingly enough, that book has survived pretty well. It still sells pretty nicely, and it's been around for 40 years. So it's really pretty good. Yeah. So that's one project. The other one was the Gershwin book that I did through Music Sales Corporation, which is now owned by Hal Leonard.
Right.
But that one I really like. My father was a jazz musician, so when we were growing up, he would teach me songs by rote, so I would play the melody, play the chords, and then we would switch, and so I really grew up with that music. And I've always had a love for it, like the old Fred Astaire movies, like with the swing time, and you see them tap dancing and all that types of Americana. And so I heard years ago this wonderful album by Bill Bolcom, actually, doing the Gershwin songbook, which was Gershwin's own arrangements of his music. And I just think they were fascinating. So over the years, actually, I started working on those arrangements in 1972. And then I got a whole series of them that I had worked on. I'd also performed them quite a bit. So I was able to work out those arrangements under battle conditions.
Okay.
It's one thing to be in your studio and say, wow, this is great. It's another thing to get on stage and do that.
Right.
And so what the stage does, doing it performing-wise, is it tends to hone things down and say, well, I don't really need that note.
Right.
I get rid of it. It streamlines the whole thing. So once I got it done, I had maybe about, I think, 17 or 18 pieces. I forget how many now. But I had tried for years to get that published. And all I got was a click and a dial tone. I mean, I tried I tried everything, and you couldn't even get past the front door. Gershwin was nailed down really tight. And unless you can offer them something that really sells, they're not interested. So I was at lunch with this guy from music sales, and I told him, I said, well, I have these 70s arrangements of Gershwin. I would love to sell them. And so he said, I'll publish them for you. And my head almost went in the soup because I've been trying for years to get them published. And so now the book was published, so it's out there now. And that was one of my favorite projects, and I performed those for years. And they're on the one that has the album that has the arch lute on it. Those three Gershwin,
okay.
Gershwin
Yeah, I think I
arrangements.
saw and heard those. I did.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. So I would say the Bach and those. But if to be really specific with your question, I'm in love with whatever project I'm doing right now.
Okay.
Pretty much,
Yeah.
And I like to do big fancy stuff like the Gershwin or the Bach, and I like just as well to do simpler books. I've enjoyed that, and I really enjoy teaching really a lot. Yeah. And so sometimes those simple books that I've done, I have students in mind of teaching, and that's helped me to do them.
Hey, before we move away from the subject of the publishing and the CDs, I went to Hal Leonard.
Yes.
The majority of your offering is there. Is that correct? Your work?
Yeah,
Hal Leonard?
Music Sales sold their print media to Hal Leonard.
Okay, so if our listeners wanted to pick up something of yours, that's the Hal Leonard's probably the best place to go.
Is the best place,
or Amazon,
or Amazon.
Yeah,
if you go to it's like a commercial break. If you point your browser to my webpage, JerryWillard.com, it'll take you right to it.
Right. Gotcha. Okay, yeah, and I think that may have been how I got there. Tell me about your CDs. Are any of them streaming on anything?
You can get them through iTunes and Spotify and all that.
Spotify, the whole gamut.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. So if you want to buy something, iTunes will be another place to do it. And again, my webpage is the best place.
Okay, so we can buy CDs right off your webpage.
Absolutely. Yeah,
okay.
that's right. That will take you to a link that will pick up them up.
All right.
JerryWillard.com.
All right. So now we know. And you don't know this, but I have a personal complication that has come with me from the time I was 26 on, and it's with Robert Johnson. Now
you mean the blues guy?
No, not the blues guy. No, not the blues guy. Right. I teach a development of rock class, and it's interesting that just a couple of weeks ago we were talking about Robert Johnson, the blues guy.
Yeah, right.
But no, I mean Robert Johnson. The
lutenist. Yeah,
the lutenist. Yeah. So I sat down. I believe it's called Allman. Right? There's an Allman.
Allman. It would be Allman.
Allman. Okay.
Allman,
So I sat down at this facility to play the Allman that is in the Library of Guitar Classics Volume 1, which you arranged. And I can nail the piece. Matter of fact, I play the piece way too fast.
So do I.
It's very comfortable. It's a comfortable piece to play. So I'm sitting there and I'm starting to play, and then my fingers don't work. And I know what the problem was, but I didn't figure it out until after I had bombed. And I had just played a couple of pieces, and it's when I just didn't make it happen. So I go back to the back room, and I'm sitting there, and my instructor's with me. There's a group of us playing. He said, what happened? I said, I don't know. He said, when's the last time you ate? And I said, well, I had a cracker before I got out there. And it had been since breakfast, and this was mid-afternoon. And he was like, no. So I learned a lesson with that. Take care of your mind, put the food in your belly,
That's right, yeah.
So I go to play this piece again for just recital hour at college, and I bombed the piece. I ate before it, and I had everything down the fingering, and I realized there's one large stretch that I chose to do in there, and that's where I bombed. So I dropped the piece. Then I get into I'm going to another school, and I'm preparing myself for my final recital, and I pick the piece back up. But as you know, with full recitals, you partner them or you pair them, with other things. So the next piece in the Library of Guitar Classics, and the only two Robert Johnson pieces that I know are the Almain and Hit and Take It.
Hit and Take It, yes.
Now, Hit and Take It, it just didn't settle with me. Yeah. And so I have this thing with Robert Johnson that I'm trying to resolve still. Where did you find that piece? How did that come into that book?
Well, let me just say a couple things about Robert Johnson. He actually wrote music for the Shakespeare plays, and that's documented. They know he did. Okay. They suspect that Thomas Morley did, but Robert Johnson they know did.
Okay.
And he wrote for The Tempest is where they found his music.
Okay.
He wrote, "Where the bee sucks, there suck I." That was one.
Okay.
And the other one was "Full Fathom 5."
Okay.
All from the Tempest. He was also part of a dynasty of lute players. His father was John Johnson, and then and then you had Robert Johnson, or the Johnson and Johnson family.
Right.
So anyways, you have that. So I get to do all my new lines on you, Andy.
Yeah, that's good.
So let me say something about this. First of all, that music, the Almain, usually tend to be played too fast. Mm-hmm. And I know this from working with dancers. It's a very dignified dance, and I totally understand why people do. I do it too, because you want to have a little bit of a lively sound, especially if you're performing it.
Yeah.
Unless you have dancers on stage, it's just this showbiz. You want people to enjoy this. So probably what happens with both the Almains, I suspect, especially with Hit and Take It, is that it's probably a little fast.
Right.
That's one thing. The other thing about Hit and Take It specifically is a piece that looks and sounds easy, and it's not.
Yeah, I agree with you.
You know what I mean? And so the only way out of that problem is to practice it really, really slowly.
Right.
That's how you do it. And you have to watch dum 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 tika taka da, that part tika taka da, that little part that goes up. You really have to be sure you don't rush that line.
Right.
So all that. So I mean, but those are just things that happens. The other thing about Robert Johnson, he was one of the lutenists that began to expand the range with the lute. He wrote largely for a 10-course lute. So on the first Almain, dum di da di da dum bum ba dum bum bum, on that one, the first one is an A minor chord. He would have had a low A. If you were playing the guitar, there would have been a low A on that also.
Right.
So while his father John Johnson just had the normal lute. Okay. But I like his music, and there's a book out, I think, a lute book out by Edward Long, where you can get his music. But all this stuff is online now with ISMLP.
Yeah.
That
all the public domain stuff. Yeah,
public domain stuff. Absolutely. Yeah. So it's very easy to find his music now, and there's a lot of music that's out that's very easy to get. Yeah. Too. So, but I like his music very much. And he's also written some fine fantasias too, that are really very, very good.
Okay. Well, I have not explored anything outside of those two pieces, and the reason why I haven't is because of what occurred. Yeah. I didn't finish that story, and I'm going to tell you now.
Okay.
So I'm going in front of my jury, which is the panel that says, "Hey, you can do your recital," right? So I open with Hit and Take It, and the words that come out of the associate department heads are like, "That's your opener."
Well, he must have loved the title.
Yeah. So I said, and it was just that I just didn't play it well. That's really what it was, and I just have this disconnect with Robert Johnson. But I'll work on accepting the challenge.
Good.
To face my fear and research the rest of his music.
Exactly. So, part of being a player too, there's an obsessive side to being in music. And I'll be having a concert coming up, and we'll be talking like this, and I'm playing the music behind me in my head while I'm talking to you. You know what I mean? You become obsessed. And sometimes a piece like that, you say, "Gosh, it'll just obsess you," even though it might not even be the most difficult piece of the concert. That one little piece will get in your head.
Right. Well, that was it.
Exactly. Yeah. So somehow or another, you have to get the monkey off your back.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. I did. The way I did that, I was walking away from it.
That's right. Well, exactly. Yeah. And so you just find a way to do it. I remember when I got my position at Stony Brook, it's the same story. When I was a kid, I loved the fourth loop suite. Ba-da-dum-bum-bum-bum, and I worked on that like crazy. I could never get that prelude. And of course, you're young, right? And I'm overplaying. That's what I'm doing.
Right.
So when I got my position at Stony Brook, I decided for the faculty recital to introduce myself to do that suite. And one of the reasons I chose it was just to rethink that so I could get rid myself of that crazy little 16-year-old that was trying to learn it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it worked. Actually, it worked.
Well, thank you, Jerry.
It's been a pleasure talking to you. I enjoyed myself very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. And listen, if you're ever down in the most beautiful state.
Second most beautiful.
Oh, okay. Then if you're ever down in Knoxville area, Tennessee, if you want to get together or something, just give us a shout.
And likewise, if you come up here, if you ski, do you ski?
I don't ski, but I like Vermont very much.
Yeah, that's right. So we're walking. We'll have lunch on croquet in the backyard.
Oh, okay.
I play croquet for blood. I'll tell you right now.
Oh, wow.
So,
I don't know if I can hang.
Oh, I'm sure you'll be fine.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, listen, Jerry, I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Knox Guitar Box. Before I tell you about our sponsors and share with you information as to how to support Knoxville Classical Guitar, I want you to know that I have faced the music. You have heard Jerry and I discuss Robert Johnson's Almain and Hidden Take It. And in a moment, you will hear Jerry's arrangement of Almain performed by yours truly. As for the second piece, well, the hits just keep coming, but I can take it. My relationship with the piece is still strained, and I'm certain I will enjoy playing the work very soon. Once again, thank you for listening. If you would like to support Knoxville Classical Guitar and Knox Guitar Box, please visit knoxvilleclassicalguitar.com/podcast. There you will be able to make a single donation or set up monthly donations for any amount. Please know that all donations go directly to Knoxville Classical Guitar. This episode of Knox Guitar Box is sponsored by Francisco Navarro Guitars, handmade classical and flamenco guitars, fine quality craftsmanship, and amazing tone and playability in an affordable instrument. For more information, visit francisconavarroguitars.com. And by Flint Merrill Music, an online marketplace dedicated to music composed and arranged for the guitar. Visit flintmerrillmusic.com for more information.